Admiral Frank Daniels stood at the view screen, hands clasped behind his back as he studied the approaching dots of light. They moved with purpose, unlike any natural phenomenon. "Confirmed, sir. 27 vessels of unknown design entering the outer solar system," reported Lieutenant Gary Peters from his station. Daniels nodded grimly. After decades of scanning the stars and sending signals into the void, humanity had finally made contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Not with a friendly radio message or a peaceful envoy, but with what was unmistakably a war fleet. Time to intercept Earth orbit. At current speed, 48 hours, sir. Daniels pressed a button on the command console. "This is Admiral Daniels. I need an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. We have first contact situation, and it's not the welcome party we hoped for." Within 3 hours, the highest military and political leaders of Earth had gathered in the underground Strategic Command Center beneath Geneva. President Julia Ward's face was grave as she took her seat at the head of the table. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we've both hoped for and feared for generations has happened," she said. "We are not alone, and our visitors don't appear to be friendly." Dr. Ben Hoffman, head of genolinguistics, stood up. "Madam President, we've received a transmission from the alien fleet. Our computers have made significant progress in decoding their language based on mathematical patterns." He activated a holographic display showing strange symbols that shifted and rearranged into English text. "To the species of the third planet, we are the Galactic Hegemony, united under the rule of the Zithar. Your world has been charted for integration. Prepare your leaders to accept terms of surrender and assimilation. Resistance is inadvisable." A heavy silence fell over the room. "They certainly don't waste time on pleasantries," muttered Defense Secretary Owen Phillips. Ambassador Lisa Collins, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "We should attempt communication before assuming the worst. Perhaps integration has a different connotation in their culture." "I agree," said President Ward. "Ambassador Collins, assemble a first contact team. See if we can open a dialogue." Within 12 hours, Collins and her team had prepared a response and established a video communication link with the approaching fleet. The screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything humans had imagined. The alien had iridescent scales covering a tall, thin frame, with 4 arms and a face dominated by compound eyes that shimmered with an unsettling intelligence. "I am Supreme Commander Vextal of the Zithar, who speaks for Earth." The translation system rendered the alien's clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless English. "I am Ambassador Lisa Collins, representing the United Earth Government. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization and wish to establish diplomatic relations." The alien's eyes flickered in what might have been amusement. "Diplomatic relations are established between equals, human. Your species is primitive. We have studied your transmissions. Your technology is basic. Your political systems are chaotic. The hegemony brings order and advancement." Collins maintained her composure. "Commander, we respectfully decline integration. Earth wishes to maintain its independence while learning about the galactic community. Your weapons are projectiles and chemical explosives. Your ships cannot leave your own star system efficiently. You have no standing in this matter." Vextal's voice grew harder. "You have 48 Earth hours to prepare your surrender protocols." The transmission cut abruptly. Collins turned to face the silent room. "Well," said Admiral Daniels with a grim smile, "they don't know humans very well, do they?" President Ward nodded slowly. "Activate Protocol Nemesis. If they want to fight, they'll discover that humanity has not been as primitive as our public technology suggests. We've prepared for this day since we first detected their emissions 30 years ago." Across Earth, hidden military installations began to power up systems that had never been revealed to the public. The real human fleet, not the decoy spacecraft that traveled between planets, emerged from concealed bases beneath the lunar surface and inside asteroid hollows. Earth was ready. and the galactic hegemony had no idea what they were about to face. Captain Ryan Miller stood motionless on the bridge of the EDF Kingfisher. His ship, designed with the most advanced stealth technology Earth had secretly developed, drifted silently among the hegemony fleet. None of the alien vessels had detected their presence. That was exactly as planned. "We're in position, sir," whispered Lieutenant Nancy Ford, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. "Their flagship is 2 kilometers off our port bow." Miller nodded. "Begin transmission sequence on my mark." He straightened his uniform and faced the camera. This would be humanity's only warning to the galactic hegemony. Mark. The Kingfisher sent a focused, untraceable communication beam directly to the hegemony flagship. Seconds later, a surprised Zithar face appeared on the main view screen. "This is Captain Ryan Miller of Earth Defense Force. I request immediate audience with Commander Vextal." The alien's compound eyes widened in what Miller recognized as shock. Their stealth technology had worked perfectly. The Zithar officer quickly regained composure. "How did you?" The alien stopped mid-sentence. "Remain in position. You will be escorted aboard." 20 minutes later, Miller and 2 security officers were led through the cavernous hallways of the hegemony vessel. The interior was a maze of organic-looking corridors that pulsed with a blue-green light. The air smelled of ozone and something like cinnamon. They entered a vast command chamber where Commander Vextal sat on an elevated platform. The Zithar leader's 4 arms were folded across his chest in what Miller had been briefed was a gesture of superiority. "Your presence here is unexpected, human," said Vextal. "Your species possesses more advanced technology than our initial scans indicated. However, this changes nothing. Your surrender deadline remains." Miller smiled slightly. "I'm not here to surrender, Commander. I'm here to deliver a message from Earth." He placed a small device on the floor that projected a hologram of Earth's Unified Leadership Council. Ambassador Collins stepped forward in the projection. "Zithar Command, we have reviewed your terms and find them unacceptable. Earth proposes an alternative: mutual recognition and peaceful coexistence. We have no desire for conflict, but we will not surrender our sovereignty." Vextal made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "Your species has courage. I will acknowledge that. But courage without strength is merely delusion. Your proposal is rejected." A hologram faded. Miller retrieved the device and looked directly at Vextal. "Then I am instructed to deliver our final message," he said calmly. "We have studied your military tactics for years. We have observed your conquests of 7 other worlds. Your technology may be advanced, but your strategies are predictable. Your weapons are powerful, but your defenses have weaknesses." Miller took a step forward. Several Zithar guards raised their weapons, but Vextal waved them down, curious. "We warned the Praxton. We warned the Kildori. Now we warn you. Leave our system now. Return to your worlds. If you attack Earth, you will not be conquering another primitive species. You will be starting a war that will end the hegemony." The chamber filled with clicking sounds that Miller recognized as Zithar laughter. "You threaten us. With what? Your nuclear weapons? Your chemical rockets?" Vextal's translator could not fully capture the mockery in his tone. Miller simply nodded respectfully. "We have delivered our message. The rest is up to you." As Miller was escorted back to his ship, he heard the Zithar officers discussing the amusing human display of defiance. They did not notice when he pressed a small button on his wrist communicator, sending a signal back to Earth. The Kingfisher departed as silently as it had arrived. As they cleared the hegemony fleet, Lieutenant Ford turned to her captain. "Do you think they'll listen, sir?" Miller shook his head. "No. They're too confident, too set in their ways. But we had to give them the chance." Back on Earth, Admiral Daniels received Miller's signal. "They've made their choice," he said quietly. "Begin global evacuation protocols. Activate all defense systems. And may God help us all." Across the planet, civilians moved into underground shelters built secretly over decades. Military personnel reported to hidden bases, and beneath the oceans, inside mountains, and on the far side of the moon, humanity's true weapons of war awakened. The Hegemony fleet entered Earth's orbit precisely when they had announced they would. Commander Vextal stood proudly on his command deck, watching as targeting systems locked onto Earth's major military installations, power grids, and government centers. "Begin the pacification bombardment," he ordered. "Standard protocol. Target their defense capabilities first, then communication networks. The humans will break quickly once they see our power." Brilliant beams of energy lanced down from the Hegemony ships, designed to vaporize anything they touched. Vextal waited for the satisfying reports of destruction that always followed first strikes against primitive worlds. Instead, his tactical officer turned with confusion evident in his posture. "Commander, something is wrong. Our weapons are hitting their targets, but they're being absorbed." "Impossible," Vextal hissed. "Magnify target areas." The view screen showed what should have been smoking craters. Instead, shimmering domes of energy covered the human installations, pulsing as they absorbed each Hegemony blast. "What is this technology?" demanded the science officer. "Their shield systems are unlike anything in our database. They appear to be adapting to our weapon frequencies in real time." Before Vextal could respond, alarms blared through the command deck. "Multiple launches detected from Earth's surface. Thousands of missiles rising," shouted the tactical officer. Vextal relaxed slightly. "Primitive nuclear weapons. Activate standard countermeasures." The Hegemony's defensive fields had neutralized nuclear attacks from a dozen species before. They would simply convert the explosive energy into harmless radiation. The first missiles reached the Hegemony ships and detonated, but instead of the expected energy conversion, the ship's shields flickered and failed. 3 vessels disappeared instantly in blinding flashes. "What happened?" Vextal roared. "The missiles. They shifted phase just before impact," stammered the science officer. "They partially existed in another dimension our shields couldn't detect." Vextal gripped his command chair. "Impossible. The humans couldn't possibly." "New contacts," interrupted the tactical officer. "Small vessels emerging from Earth's moon. They're moving at incredible speed, but our sensors barely detect them." On the view screen, Vextal watched as sleek black ships appeared seemingly from nowhere, firing weapons that bent space itself around his fleet. Where the strange distortions touched Hegemony ships, metal twisted and tore as gravity itself became a weapon. Aboard the EDF Valiant, Captain Eric Summers directed the first counterattack of humanity's hidden fleet. "Target their propulsion systems with gravity lances," he ordered calmly. "Disable rather than destroy when possible." His weapons officer, Linda Bright, nodded. "Gravitational disruption fields at maximum. Their ships are experiencing localized gravity thousands of times Earth normal. Their hulls can't withstand the stress." On the main display, Summers watched as Hegemony vessels crumpled like paper toys. The aliens had expected Earth to have, at most, chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. They had never imagined humans would have mastered gravitational manipulation, quantum phase technology, and adaptive energy shields. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "Admiral Daniels reports strikes from our asteroid bases are successful. The Hegemony's attempt to bring in reinforcements has been blocked. Their faster-than-light communications array has been disabled." Summers nodded grimly. "Send to all Earth forces. Continue with Operation Thunderstroke. No mercy, but no unnecessary deaths. Remember the prime directive. We're fighting for our survival, not for vengeance." Back on the Hegemony flagship, chaos reigned. Vextal watched in horror as his mighty armada was torn apart by weapons his species had believed were centuries beyond human capability. "How is this possible?" he demanded of no one in particular. "They were supposed to be primitive." His tactical officer, bleeding from a head wound as the ship shuddered under another attack, looked up with dawning realization. "They warned us, Commander. They told us they had studied our tactics. They knew we were coming for years. Vextal stared at the view screen, watching as another of his dreadnoughts split in half under a gravitational attack. Order all remaining ships to regroup. We need to retreat and reconsider our approach. But it was too late. In just 6 hours, 1/3 of the mighty hegemony invasion force had been destroyed or disabled. The myth of their invincibility, maintained across 1,000 conquered worlds, had been shattered by a species they had dismissed as barely spacefaring, and Earth's counterattack was just beginning. The surviving hegemony ships retreated to Mars orbit, establishing a defensive position while their commanders tried to understand what had gone so catastrophically wrong. In an emergency war council aboard the damaged flagship, senior officers argued bitterly. How could our intelligence be so flawed? Demanded Sub-Commander Zivlik, slamming all 4 hands on the conference table. They were supposed to be centuries behind us technologically. Vextal's compound eyes flickered with suppressed rage. The humans concealed their true capabilities. They allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see, a deception strategy no other species has employed against us. The hegemony's chief tactician, Narthul, displayed holographic battle recordings. Their approach to warfare defies our understanding. Look here, when we adapted our shields to their gravity weapons, they immediately switched to different attack methods. When we concentrated our forces, they dispersed. When we dispersed, they concentrated. It's as if they anticipated every counter-strategy before we implemented it, said Zivlik. Meanwhile, on Earth, Colonel Kate Martinez crawled through dense underbrush, leading a squad of 12 soldiers. They had tracked a hegemony landing party that had established a small foothold in the forests of northern Canada before the aliens' main defeat in orbit. Remember, she whispered into her comm, their armor is strongest at the front. Target joint sections and sensory arrays. The alien patrol moved through the forest with what Martinez recognized as textbook formation, exactly what her team had trained to counter. The hegemony troops carried energy weapons that could vaporize a human instantly, but they moved with the overconfidence of soldiers who had never faced defeat. Now, Martinez ordered. Her soldiers attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Instead of using energy weapons that the aliens' armor could deflect, they deployed specialized ammunition that expanded on impact, finding the microscopic gaps in the hegemony battle suits. Within 30 seconds, the entire alien patrol lay disabled or dead. Command, this is Martinez. Another patrol neutralized. That's the 5th landing party eliminated. No casualties on our side. Similar reports came in from around the globe. The hegemony had managed to land several hundred soldiers before their orbital defeat, expecting to secure beachheads for the main invasion. Instead, they found themselves hunted by human forces who seemed to know their tactics and technology intimately. In the Strategic Command Center, Dr. Alan Peters, the military's chief psychologist, briefed Earth's leadership on why the aliens were struggling to adapt. The hegemony has conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years, he explained, pointing to intelligence gleaned from captured alien databases. But they've always followed the same pattern, overwhelming technological superiority followed by standard occupation procedures. They've never needed to innovate tactically. President Ward nodded thoughtfully. And we've been preparing for this moment since we first detected their communications decades ago. Exactly, said Peters. While they saw us as primitives, we were studying them, preparing countermeasures for every weapon and tactic in their arsenal. But more importantly, humans possess something the Zithar can't comprehend. Adaptive creativity under pressure. Admiral Daniels pointed to new intelligence reports. The hegemony operates like a machine, efficient but predictable. They have protocols for everything. When those protocols fail, they struggle to improvise. And that's our advantage, Peters continued. Humans have been fighting each other for millennia. We've mastered the art of adapting, of thinking outside established patterns. The hegemony has no concept of guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, or psychological operations. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force. On the view screen, satellite footage showed hegemony forces regrouping around Mars, clearly preparing for a second attempt at Earth. Their numbers had been severely reduced, but they still possessed significant firepower. "They won't give up," said Secretary Phillips. "Their entire empire is built on the myth of invincibility. They can't afford to be defeated by us. Then we'll have to convince them that continuing this war will cost more than they're willing to pay." President Ward replied grimly. "Admiral Daniels, proceed with Phase 2. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet prepared to take the fight directly to the enemy. The hegemony was about to learn another painful lesson about human warfare. We don't just defend, we counterattack. Commander Vextal received the emergency transmission with growing dread. The holographic figure of Supreme Overlord Kvaris, ruler of the entire galactic hegemony, loomed before him, the Overlord's normally impassive face showing clear signs of agitation. "Explain how a single primitive world has decimated our third expeditionary fleet," Kvaris demanded without preamble. Vextal fought to maintain composure. "Overlord, the humans concealed their true technological capabilities. They have weapons systems we've never encountered before. Their tactics are unpredictable." "Excuses." Kvaris's voice filled the command chamber. "I am dispatching the 1st and 2nd Imperial fleets to your position. 6,000 vessels, our finest warriors. We will not allow a single world to challenge hegemony dominance. It will take them 3 standard cycles to reach this system, even at maximum speed," Vextal noted. "Then hold your position until they arrive. Failure is not acceptable, Commander." As the transmission ended, Vextal turned to his tactical officer. "Strengthen our defensive formation around Mars. We must survive until reinforcements arrive." Meanwhile, in a secure laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. William Carter made final adjustments to what many considered humanity's most dangerous creation. "The Prometheus Protocol is ready, Madam President," he reported to the holographic image of President Ward. "Once activated, the units will self-replicate using available materials and carry out their programmed objectives. We can limit their operational lifespan to ensure they won't become a long-term threat." President Ward's face showed the weight of the decision before her. "The Security Council has voted. With the hegemony calling in their main fleets, we have no choice. You are authorized to deploy." Carter nodded gravely and pressed his palm against a biometric scanner. Deep inside the mountain, thousands of metallic spheres the size of baseballs hummed to life, their nanofabrication systems activating. Within hours, each would become millions. "May God forgive us for what we're about to unleash," Carter whispered. In lunar orbit, Admiral Daniels addressed the captains of Earth's hidden fleet via secure holographic conference. "The Prometheus units will provide us the distraction we need," he explained. "But our primary objective remains the same. We must demonstrate to the hegemony that continuing this war will be too costly even for them." He highlighted a star map showing key hegemony supply lines and communication relays. "Captain Summers, your battle group will target these communication hubs. Commander Olivia Harrison, your ships will strike these supply depots. The Monroe battle group will remain in defensive position around Earth." "Admiral," Captain Summers interjected, "this will be the first deployment of our FTL drives in actual combat conditions. The test runs were promising, but—" "I understand the risks, Captain," Daniels cut in. "But we've run out of options. The hegemony is sending 6,000 ships. We need to show them that distance won't protect their empire from our reach." As the meeting concluded, technicians across the fleet made final preparations for humanity's first faster-than-light combat jump. The drives, based on principles of quantum tunneling rather than the space-folding technology used by the hegemony, were Earth's most closely guarded secret. Aboard the EDF Valiant, Captain Summers watched his crew prepare for the unprecedented mission. "FTL drive charged to capacity, sir," reported his engineering officer. "Quantum field stabilized. We can jump on your command." Summers took a deep breath. "All hands, secure for FTL transit. weapon systems on standby for immediate deployment upon arrival. Across the solar system, 12 Earth vessels disappeared in flashes of brilliant light, bypassing conventional space to emerge light years away at key hegemony installations. Simultaneously, the first wave of Prometheus units slipped silently toward Mars. The microscopic machines, each containing advanced AI and self-replication instructions, began infiltrating hegemony ships through ventilation systems and maintenance ports. Once inside, they began consuming non-essential materials to create more of themselves. On distant hegemony worlds, government officials stared in horror as their communication systems suddenly displayed the same message on every screen. "You attacked Earth. We warned you to run." Seconds later, their planetary networks began to collapse as human-designed cyber weapons, transmitted through the hegemony's own communication relays, executed their programming. Power grids failed. Defense systems went offline. Chaos spread. The war had just expanded beyond anything the hegemony had imagined possible. Supreme Overlord Kivaris strode into the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic hegemony, his 4 arms trembling with barely controlled rage. The 19 members of the High Council, representing the most powerful species within the Empire, watched their leader with growing anxiety. 3 days, Kivaris hissed as he took his place at the center of the circular chamber. In 3 days, humans have done what no species has accomplished in 2,000 years. They have struck at the heart of our empire. The display screens surrounding the chamber showed scenes of devastation across hegemony space. Communication hubs destroyed by precision strikes, supply depots reduced to drifting debris, and most alarmingly, 3 previously subjugated worlds where the local species had risen in open rebellion. How is this possible? Demanded Councillor Drevmore of the Thracian Dominion. The humans were confined to a single star system. Their ships cannot travel faster than light. Minister of Intelligence Zarketh stepped forward, her scales dulled with stress. We were wrong. Human ships have appeared in 17 different sectors simultaneously. They possess a form of faster-than-light travel different from our fold space technology. Our sensors cannot detect their approach until they have already arrived. The council chamber erupted in angry shouts and accusations. Kivaris slammed a ceremonial staff against the floor, restoring order. "There is worse news," he continued grimly. "The fleet we positioned around the red planet in their system has been compromised. Some form of self-replicating machines have infiltrated our vessels. They consume materials to create more of themselves. 12 dreadnoughts have already been abandoned. The rest are fighting to contain the infestation." Across the chamber, the military chief Brazter spoke up. "The 1st and 2nd Imperial fleets will reach the human system in 2 days. They will crush this resistance." "Will they?" Kivaris asked quietly. "Or will they face the same fate as the 3rd Fleet? These humans—" He paused, struggling to comprehend. "They should be primitive. Their civilization is barely 4,000 years old, yet they fight as if they have studied warfare for millions of years." On the occupied world of Theris IV, General Maria Rodriguez watched as her Earth forces, fighting alongside the native Theresians, surrounded the last hegemony stronghold. This was the 3rd hegemony-controlled planet her Liberation Task Force had reached. "Final defense perimeter breached," reported Major Paul Green. "Hegemony forces are requesting terms of surrender." Rodriguez nodded. "Accept their surrender. Standard protocols, respectful treatment, medical care for their wounded." A Theresian resistance leader, his insect-like features unreadable to most humans, turned to Rodriguez in confusion. "Why show them mercy? They gave our people none when they conquered us 50 cycles ago." "Because that's the difference between them and us," Rodriguez replied simply. "We're not here to replace one empire with another. We're here to end empires altogether." Back on the hegemony flagship near Mars, Commander Vextal faced a difficult decision. The Prometheus machines had already compromised the lower decks of his vessel. His science team estimated complete system failure within hours. Meanwhile, the human fleet in Earth orbit remained in defensive formation, making no move to finish off his crippled forces. "Commander," his second-in-command said hesitantly, "there's a transmission from the humans." The view screen activated to show Admiral Daniels, his expression serious but not triumphant. "Commander Vextal, your position is untenable. The Prometheus units can be deactivated remotely, but only if we choose to do so. Your reinforcements are still 2 days away, and when they arrive, they will face the same technologies that defeated your fleet." Vextal's pride warred with his duty to preserve his remaining forces. "What are your terms, human?" "Unconditional withdrawal from our solar system. And you will personally carry a message to your leaders." "What message?" Vextal asked. "That humanity does not seek to destroy the hegemony. We seek to change it. Your empire has subjugated hundreds of species through fear and superior technology. Those days are over." After Daniels ended the transmission, Vextal's tactical officer approached cautiously. "Commander, I've analyzed all our encounters with the humans. They could have destroyed us completely, but they've been surgical in their attacks. They're showing restraint." "Restraint?" Vextal clicked in the Zithar equivalent of bitter laughter. "They've crippled our fleet, infiltrated our empire, and inspired rebellions across our territory. Yes, but they've avoided unnecessary casualties. It's not our destruction they want." The officer paused. "I believe they meant it when they warned us to run." The neutral station hung in space between the territories claimed by Earth and the galactic hegemony. Originally a Zithar scientific outpost, it had been hastily converted into a diplomatic meeting ground. Representatives from 27 species filled the central chamber, an unprecedented gathering in galactic history. Ambassador Lisa Collins stood calmly at the head of the human delegation. Beside her sat Admiral Frank Daniels, Captain Ryan Miller, and Dr. Samantha Wright, creator of Earth's adaptive shield technology. Across the circular table, Supreme Overlord Kvaris led the hegemony representatives, with Commander Vextal noticeably seated at his right hand, a position of unexpected honor given his defeat. Between them sat delegates from the newly formed Free Species Alliance, former subjects of the hegemony who had seized their independence during the conflict. "This summit will now begin," announced the chosen mediator, a member of an ancient neutral species that had somehow maintained independence from the hegemony for millennia. Kvaris spoke first, his voice carrying none of its former arrogance. "The galactic hegemony acknowledges the military capabilities of Earth and recognizes the humans as an advanced species with sovereign rights to their territory." A significant concession, but Collins knew it wasn't enough. She rose to her feet. "Earth appreciates this recognition, but it comes far too late and offers far too little. The conflict between our worlds has revealed a fundamental truth. The age of empires must end." She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy with hegemony territory highlighted in red, nearly 60% of the known systems. "For too long, the hegemony has ruled through technological superiority and military might. That advantage has been permanently lost. The terms Earth proposes are not merely for our benefit, but for all species." Collins gestured to the representatives of the Free Species Alliance. "These worlds have already claimed their independence. Earth recognizes their sovereignty and will defend it if necessary." Kvaris's compound eyes flickered with anger, but Vextal placed a restraining hand on his leader's arm. "What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador?" Vextal asked. "The complete dissolution of the galactic hegemony as an imperial power," Collins stated clearly. "Each world currently under hegemony control will hold free elections to determine their own governance. The Zithar will retain control only of their homeworld and colonies where they are the majority population." The chamber erupted in sounds of shock, approval, and outrage. Kvaris rose to his full height. "This is absurd. You would undo thousands of years of order and stability." Admiral Daniels spoke for the first time, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Order built on subjugation is not stability, Overlord. It's a pressure vessel waiting to explode. What we're offering is a controlled release rather than a catastrophic failure." A representative from the Free Species Alliance, a tall, crystalline being, joined the discussion. For centuries, my people dreamed of freedom but lacked the means to achieve it. Humanity has given us that chance. We will not return to chains. The debate continued for hours, with the hegemony representatives gradually recognizing their untenable position. Earth's display of military and technological power had shattered the foundation of fear upon which their empire had been built. One by one, subject worlds were declaring independence, and Earth had demonstrated both the capability and willingness to protect them. Finally, as the station's artificial day cycle dimmed toward evening, Kvaris made his decision. The hegemony will accept the core of these terms, with negotiations on specific implementation. His voice carried the weight of history. Our empire, as it has existed, is indeed finished. 3 weeks later, Captain Ryan Miller stood with Admiral Daniels on the observation deck of Earth's orbital headquarters, watching ships from dozens of formerly subjugated worlds arrive for a historic conference on establishing the new Galactic Charter. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you delivered our warning?" Daniels asked. Miller shook his head. "Honestly, sir, I thought we were headed for a long, brutal war that would cost millions of lives on both sides. I never expected them to actually listen to reason." "They didn't listen to reason," Daniels corrected him. "They listened to power. We showed them that humanity couldn't be conquered, and that changed everything." "But we didn't conquer them in return," Miller noted. "That's what none of them expected. We could have established our own empire after breaking theirs."